I will call to order the meeting of the Batavia Public Library District Board of Trustees for April 15. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, well, I appreciate the trustees accommodating a change in schedule for today's meeting. We do need to appoint a secretary for the purpose of today's meeting. Any volunteers for that important task?
I'll do it.
Okay, thank you, Maureen. All right, Maureen Jakubowski is our secretary for the day. Can you call the roll, please?
Sullivan.
Here.
Deachman.
Here.
Am I saying it right?
You are.
Deachman, Jakubowski here. Von Lunden.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Okay, comments from the audience. Seeing none present, we'll move on to item 5, which is today's consent agenda, consisting of minutes from March 18, expenditures from March 2014, resolution authorizing the director to execute the Ilinet OCLC Services Program Renewal Agreement for FY15 and the Technology Plan for 2014 through 2017. Any trustee, would any trustee like any of these items to be removed for a separate vote? Okay.
I make a motion we approve the agenda as submitted.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Second by Jakubowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Roll call. Okay.
All right, Sullivan.
Aye.
Deachman.
Aye.
Jakubowski. Aye. Von Lunden.
Aye.
Okay. Our consent agenda is approved. Item 6, approving today's regular agenda. Any additions or changes? Okay. Do I hear a motion on the agenda?
I move we approved or we adopt today's agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Von Lunden. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, our agenda is approved. Okay, so item 7, financial reports. Joy, welcome.
Thank you. The reports are in your packet. Nothing unusual. I'm already in the process of working on our internal budget for 2014-2015. We did receive our notification of what tax dollars we will be receiving. We got a preliminary number on our health insurance renewal, and so I'm going to start to flush through something so that actually there might be something at the May board meeting, finance meeting, and if there's any questions, I'll answer them.
We paid off all the bills for the improvements that we did in the bathroom and the.
Those have all been paid.
And how did that relate to the budget we had assigned?
We basically have decided when we went ahead with those projects that both the AV and the bathroom remodel projects would be funded out of the special reserve.
Okay.
Neither one of them reached the full approval amount. We did
Good.
get a little bit of contingency back on each of those projects, even though we did add a few things to each of those projects.
Good.
So, yeah, so those are done. We actually have the pre-bid meeting today, this afternoon, for a lot of the exterior site work,
Okay.
the concrete and the columns. That's moving forward.
Good. Thank you.
Okay.
that
Any
it?
other questions for Joy?
I'd like to throw out that the group medical insurance has gone down for us, which is great.
Wow.
Is it Obamacare?
I would credit the American Healthcare Act as something. So that's very good news for our budget plan.
Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you, Joy. Item 8 is the President's report. A couple things to share today. First, we have a retreat on Saturday, the 26th, an all-day affair held here at the library for us to work on our next multi-year strategic plan. So thank you, trustees, for your participation in that, and staff as well. Second, the library staff and at least a couple trustees are participating in Batavia's Loyalty Day Parade on Sunday, May 4th. I'll let George explain the name of the theme for that when the time comes. And I also would like to appoint a new representative from this body to the Batavia Access Television Board of Directors, and Kara Schuster has volunteered for that role, so I'll officially name her as the official representative to that board starting today.
The date actually should be, what is?
July 1st.
July
1st. Okay, thank you.
I forgot to tell you that, sorry.
No problem. Okay, July 1st it is. All right. And that's all I had for my report. Item 9 is good news or comments from the board. Anybody have anything to share today? Okay. Item 10, correspondence and communication.
There was one report in your packet, otherwise there's nothing
Okay.
special.
Okay. All right, and then item 11, directors and librarians reports. George?
Okay. Well, I'll use this opportunity to explain the theme, I guess, for the parade. This is the 40th annual Loyalty Day Parade. In Batavia, it's always held on the Sunday closest to May 1st, and May 1st actually being Loyalty Day, which is not an official federal holiday, but which is widely recognized around the country. So I think it started in response to the former Soviet Union's sort of militaristic celebration of May 1st, and this was a way of offsetting that in the United States. But the theme this year is always chosen by the sponsoring organization, and I picked up on the World War II idea of Kilroy was here, and in the director's report it has a little image of that used to crop up everywhere. Back when I was in college, this used to show up still all over campus when I was in college. Usually with the word Kilroy was here next to it, and I have not researched the origin of this, so I can't tell you any more than that. But so we're using that theme, and we actually, Marcel, who is not here this morning, is making up book-shaped signs with Kilroy looking over the top of the spine that will be carried in the parade with several, theme-related, like World War II type-related titles for adults and children in it. And we appreciate, there's at least 2 trustees I know that have signed up, and all the trustees are welcome to march in the parade along with managers and other staff. I think our goal is to have at least a dozen people in our unit, and we're just, so I don't know that the library certainly hasn't done it in my tenure. I don't know if the library has ever marched in the parade.
Do you know what the route is?
It's on the east side.
Starts on Verdant Road on the North Verdant. It comes down to Wilson, and then Wilson down to 25 and 25 down to VFW.
Okay, because it used to come all the way
Yeah.
down here, but doesn't.
It's just
do that
on the
anymore.
east side now, yeah.
Yeah, it used to start over by Furnace, I think, in the parking lot there, and I remember when Rotary did that, one very cold morning we gathered at the Furnace parking lot. So we're hoping there won't be any snow on May 4th, although I don't know that we have any way of guaranteeing that, but so we're excited about that. And if anyone who wants to volunteer, there's still time to do that.
So can I ask, so this Kilroy, started to dwell on this, so this Kilroy has something to do with the overall theme of the parade then?
Well, they're using, they've made the theme Kilroy was here.
Oh, that's not our theme, that's
No,
that's the wider theme.
That's the wider theme, and
Got
so we're
it,
just
okay.
basically having him be here at the library as part of our
I
theme.
see.
So,
Okay.
but that is actually the parade theme this year. They always have
I
a theme
get it.
this year.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. And attached to the main director's report is the flyer, library ebooks, your library, and publishers. And this grew out of work at the services committee level, and we've just started to publish these. And I want to make sure everyone on the board got a copy.
I think this is really great.
Yeah.
It's really great. Thank you, Stacy, for doing that.
And we appreciate
It's really meant
we appreciate the interest of the board in this whole process. So we've also got information on the website as well. So
Right. Yeah, I liked this piece as well. Thank you.
I love the cover and all.
and so those are the two things I wanted to highlight myself. We have Joanne and Stacy here to talk about exciting things in their departments.
Joanne, welcome.
Thank you. Stand over here so that you don't have to turn your heads that direction. I'll just pass around, I included in your packet the page from the Daily Herald. This is the larger, I had to shrink it down for during spring break. We had events every day for students, but this one, Allison promoted an egg drop competition. She did it last summer as well. Both times she's done it, though the weather has not been terribly nice outside. It was pretty cold and windy. But this time, it just so happened that Gary Holmes from the Public Works Department had called to schedule our annual Truck Tales program in May. And she just happened to ask, hey, would you have a truck we could use to drop our egg drops? And so a crew came over and they dropped students' eggs. They had to engineer a case that would hold the egg without it breaking. And then they tested it from various heights. And the top was 35. After 35 feet, we didn't go any higher because it was pretty windy and wild out there. But two brothers happened to, their egg survived a 35-foot drop of their raw egg onto the cement in the patio. So it was a very fun time. And the Daily Herald was here and took a lot of photos of that. Just a couple things from my report I'd like to highlight. One is our magazine collection. You might remember last month I mentioned that we did some changes to that collection. That collection was under, the new magazines were perched on a display shelf, and you had to lift the shelf, and then under that were some old magazine boxes with old issues. And children, much like the adult collection, children could only take out the past issues. They couldn't check out the current. And people didn't know we had that collection, and we were just trying to, what could we do to change that collection and make that more attractive? Because there were some great timely things in magazines, and children that we would show the magazines to really love them. So George and Stacy and I had seen some magazine boxes at ALA last year. We investigated those, and with per capita grant dollars, we were able to purchase the magazine boxes, the acrylic boxes, which now the magazines are face out. We took the shelf, the flip shelf off that the children had a difficult time lifting anyway. And all the magazines are now face out, and we are allowing them to check out the most current issue. Because unlike the adults who will come in and take a magazine and go sit by a window with a cup of coffee and browse a magazine, children just don't do that. They want to take it, and either they're going to look at it in 5 minutes or they want to take it home with them. So circulation, you'll notice in my report, went up 25% this year just in that collection, this month. And it really only started, the change in the collection really was only fully complete on March 12th. And so it really wasn't even a whole month. So, I'm sorry, yeah, March 12th it was finally complete. So I think it's made a great impact on that collection. I will tell you, it's even, when you come down the steps, it even is much more colorful because you see all those colorful magazines. So that was a great change, and we're looking forward to seeing what else happens with that collection. I will point out right behind Andrew today is the first unveiling of our Summer Reading Club poster. Pause to Read is this year's theme. Summer Reading Club will run from June 7th till August 2nd. And again, I'll give more details of it, but we have, again, over 90 programs planned for the summer. Our Summer Reading Club goes from infants through 8th graders, and AS does teens and adults. And besides program planning and getting our logbooks together, Allison is in the process of setting up summer reading club presentations at all the Batavia schools again for the month of May. And in conjunction with Pause to Read this year, I also wanted to mention something that didn't get finalized till after my board report was in, so I didn't get a chance to put it in my board report, but I wanted to mention it to the board. You may remember that last year, Allison worked with some teachers from Hooverwood School to take Summer Reading Club to Batavia Apartments. And teachers would read to the children. Allison would go once a week and look through logbooks and issue prizes. And that was very well received over there. She had about 23 children who came regularly to collect prizes. And many of those were children who may not have gotten to the library during the summer. We have a deposit collection there that one of our staff members, Carol Hallow, kind of refreshes every month. And that turned out to be a great opportunity. Well, as we were winding down on Summer Reading Club, we thought, well, is there something else we could do to kind of expand that outreach? And I talked to Kara Schuster, and I said, what about taking it to Mooseheart? Because that's another location that we often hear that the families don't often get to go places. They have to go as a group, and that's often difficult for them. So while we often get families from Mooseheart coming to the library, there are times during the summertime that during that 8-week window, it's hard for them to make regular visits. So Kara and I and Allison met. Kara had some conversations with staff at Mooseheart, and I'm thrilled to announce that just within the last week, we've gotten approval to do a similar thing at Mooseheart. So Allison will go once a week for about an hour and a half. Children will be able to log in their logbooks there. She's actually doing a presentation to the group, much like she does to all the Batavia schools. She's doing a presentation to the Mooseheart school children about Summer Reading Club, and we're hoping to register a number of children at Mooseheart. The one component that really was great at Hooverwood was the teachers coming in and reading with the children. And so we were hoping, as Kara and I had some conversations, to be able to do that again at Mooseheart. But that means we need to generate some other volunteers. So Kara's contacted the Friends of the Library to see if there might be some adults who would be willing to spend an hour and a half or so a week coming over to Mooseheart to read with children, either reading to them or reading with them, having them practicing their reading. And we wanted to extend that invitation to our library board to see if anybody was interested and willing. And Maureen and I will talk about possibly extending it to our other adults too that we know who might be interested in literacy. So I'm happy to send out those dates if anybody's interested. Kara was sorry that she couldn't be here this morning to talk about it as well. But we'll work with the number of people that we have, and we're looking forward to this outreach as well. We'll be taking a small amount of books. They have Kara's working to have their library open during the summertime, but we'll be taking some books from our donations with us as well that can be used for that reading. So you'll be hearing more from me. I'll be sending out an email, but if that's something of interest, they'll be generally during the daytime on Mondays or Tuesdays. I think we're doing Mondays in June and Tuesdays in July, and for about an hour and a half in the morning. So, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Questions for Joanne?
Oh, that sounds great.
Okay, thanks. Stacy, welcome.
Thanks. Just a couple of items in adult services. One is that live homework help on the online homework service is being used at a very nice rate. We had 47 tutoring sessions online in March, which is delightful to see. So students are aware that service is available to them and they're using it. We also get the feedback, the comments that the students submit, and they're always positive. The tutor helped me get over a hump. They helped me understand what I was doing with this math problem that previously I couldn't grasp. One other item I wanted to highlight is on the library website, there's a link to Goodreads and Views, which is a place where everyone in adult services writes one book review a month, and they're posted on that blog. And recently, we did something that enhances that service, and we've already had a patron take advantage of it, which was really fun. we each wrote a reviewer profile describing the types of books that we tend to read. And then we link from that profile to our reviews. And we had someone who came in who was looking for a nonfiction recommendation for her book club. And so she looked at the reviewer profiles and said, this is a reader of nonfiction who also does book discussions, and that's the person I want to talk to, and came in and asked by name. So we're excited that we're expanding some of the readers advisory services and adult services, giving a face to some of these reviews. We also have our photos on the blog so people can match up the readers with their interests. And if they find that one of us reads a lot like they do, we may be able to be even more adept at providing reading suggestions for those readers.
That's a great idea.
Okay, thank you. All right. Item 12 is committee reports. Andrew, anything from Facilities Committee?
Not a thing. Actually, we did meet. We reviewed the plan set for the exterior improvements. I think as mentioned, the pre-bid meeting is today. Is that 2 o'clock?
Yeah.
2 o'clock.
Today. Bids are going to be due in time for us to review them at our next monthly board meeting. They sent those out to a number of contractors they've worked with in the past that do this kind of work. I don't know how many people have picked up plan sets, but we'll know today because it's a mandatory pre-bid. So after today's pre-bid, we'll know how many people are going to bid on the project. So that'll be good to see.
Okay.
What else? I think that's the biggest.
That was the gist of it.
Yeah.
Is it perhaps appropriate to mention that positive feedback thus far on that facade grant possibility?
Sure.
I guess in communication with the city has led us to believe that we're probably, or maybe definitely, eligible for a city facade grant, being in the historic district here in downtown Batavia, so that will perhaps help offset some of that expense. So that's good news.
Yeah.
I've already started to work on the application.
Good.
Which is, the work in the application in some ways far exceeds the benefit we will get, but I think it'll be worth it. You know, I think we'll be eligible for the maximum grant, which is $5,000, and that's nothing to sneak at.
That's great. Okay. And questions for Andrew or anything else to add?
Once the bids come in, the engineer, architect will take a look at those and make some recommendations on an award, and we can decide if there's some work that is just cost prohibitive or that we want to wait and do later, or hopefully it will all come in within bid or under budget, and we'll move forward with the improvements.
Okay.
So the board will be asked to approve the successful responsive bidder in May. One thing question that hadn't come up for the Facilities Committee, which I'll just throw out today, is that the Facilities Committee, if it wishes, could reschedule its meeting to correspond to the day of or probably the day after the bid opening, if the Facilities Committee would like to, review that as well prior to the board meeting. We did that for the restroom and the AV. But,
Yeah, when is
bid opening is Tuesday, May 13th.
Gotcha. Yeah, seems right.
That sounds right.
Do a quick look on the calendar. Yeah, Tuesday, May 13th at 1 o'clock in meeting room AV is when the bid opening is. So with the Facilities Committee normally would meet on May 6th. We could bump it to May 13th, perhaps, and if the committee would like to do that.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay. That way, the committee can have a shot at reviewing what happened and make a recommendation to the board, which always is a helpful thing to do.
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah, if the engineer can get us a letter of recommendation, even if it's a conditional letter, or something that summarizes the bid and says these are the bids that came in, and contingent upon review of contractor's qualifications, we recommend awarding the bid to.
And even if they don't have the formal letter to us, until, the board packet will go out the week after that anyway. So, no, sorry, the board meeting is a week from that day, so we would have a letter that week regardless. So, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We also, as far as facilities, we also talked about and approved the 3-year plan, rolling plan for the technology, which we put in the
Well, that's true.
consent budget.
Okay, thank you. All right, excuse me, Finance Committee, Tom, anything to report there?
Well, yes, you mentioned we were looking at alternate funding for the improvements, capital maintenance and improvements we're looking at, and as you said, we did get good news from the city about a facade grant to help us. I think specifically we were looking to propose the column repairs as the facade we looked at. We also looked at other areas where we could try to get additional funding without going to the public for additional referendum. We're still looking into that. And that was about it.
Okay. All right, thank you, Tom. So outreach and services and the foundation did not meet since our last full board meeting. George, anything to report from the Friends group that you know of?
I attended their meeting, and nothing special came out of that meeting.
Okay.
They're, continue to plan, their projects, and they're doing very well with their book sales. They've, with the library's approval, have added a new one this year on the second Saturday in August, so they're excited about that.
Okay.
And I think my wife being the membership chairman, they are looking for new members for the Friends, and I think this week being National Library Week, they're going to have a table out here in the hall.
Thanks for the reminder. They are. I forget the dates and times, but they will have a table out here to solicit members and promote the Friends. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then item 12G is Link. George, anything to report there?
Well, among other things, the two main thrusts of the meeting was the annual meeting, so there were elections of officers. I was elected secretary for starting May 1st. And Melody Coleman, the director of West Chicago, was in fact, because of the transition from the old structure to the new structure, we already had elected a president-elect to start May 1st, which was Melody Coleman, and Melody is retiring in May, so that opened up that slot. And the new director at St. Charles, Pam Leffler, was amenable to taking on that position, not to start May 1st. She'll start as vice president, president-elect May 1st, and then be president the following year. So it was nice of her to step up to the plate on that. And the second major discussion point related to the long-range planning for Link. And the Link offices sent out an RFP and got a half dozen responses, and we basically were working through those and narrowed it down to one to get follow-up on professional references for that consultant, and be more news on that in the future. But that took up, that probably was the most time-consuming agenda item last Friday. So a lot of interesting things going on with Link.
Did it seem like the meetings are achieving the purpose with the consolidation?
We're certainly working hard. So, there's some issues, I think, as we get into our first full year of this new structure. I think we'll see a more streamlined schedule in some ways. Before, like in the budget process, the administrators always, reviewed the budget before it went to the trustees governing board, which meant with certain reviews that take place pretty early in the process. And so I think we'll see a little more condensing of the schedule because we don't have 2 review points anymore. The same with the administrator's evaluation. Before, that was always went through the administrators first before it went to the governing board, and now it's just the one board doing it. So we're already seeing a little tightening of that timeline, which makes things a little easier. So yeah, it seems to be working.
Okay. Item 13, future agenda items. Got a memo in your packet about upcoming items. Any questions?
Do we have for the community survey, is that completed now?
The community survey is completed. They're hard at work crunching the results, which will be part of the retreat on the 26th. And for I know that a couple trustees' schedules have now precluded them from being at the retreat, but we will have, of course, follow-up information for everyone.
Okay. And then item 14 is a potential, discussion or action item about TIF District Number 3. So you may recall at our last meeting, we had a request from a developer to write a letter of support in favor of, I guess, extending the length of time that the current TIF would remain in place. So that's the purpose of tonight, or today's agenda item. We've come to learn that, I guess, the legislation that would have allowed that to take place is, I guess, non-existent or not going to be taken up until perhaps November. So there's really no purpose for the letter of support at this time. So I think there's no need for a vote on whether to support that TIF extension, but if any trustees have any comments or anything to add to that, we can discuss that now. Okay. So I guess an uneventful item 14 there, but I think assuming that project is something that this community still wants to get behind, we'll probably be hearing more about that later in 2014.
I would think so.
Okay. All right. And does any trustee have any need for the closed session for today's meeting?
There is one thing in conversations with the attorneys, there is one question that I think I should discuss with the board, if that's okay.
All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn to closed session?
I so moved.
Moved by Von Lennon, second, and second by Deitchman. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned for closed
Will we be
session.
adjourning after that then?
Yes, there'll be no action item.